folks, welcome to Board Game Breakfast for January 13th, 2014. Well, folks, if you haven't yet checked out our Kickstarter, we're about to put a link on the screen where you can. There it is. But really, if the Kickstarter didn't do much more than it is now, I'm just overwhelmed. For all of those of you who helped out with the Kickstarter, a big thank you to you. We're really going to hopefully be able to do some really cool stuff. And it looks like we're going to get to revamping the Dice Tower website now, and I'm really excited about that. And so there's still possibilities of us adding more pledge levels and more things as time goes by. And if this is the first time you're hearing about the Kickstarter, well, then we ask that you give it a look. But that's not what this video is going to be about. We're going to talk about the Dice Tower itself, and to do that, we are going to go to the news. All right, the first thing in the news is a new expansion for Descent 2 called Oath of the Outcast, Heroes and Monsters. Now, this is interesting. When I was wondering how they were going to do this, when Descent came out, it was a dungeon crawl game with lots of plastic miniatures. And then they came out with, I believe, 3 expansions that had more plastic monsters in. It might have been 4. I get confused. But there was a lot of monsters, a lot of miniatures. When the new Descent second edition came out, it came out with all different monsters and basically a different way to play the game. But they also came out with a conversion pack for the older monsters. So you were able to use all those old plastic monsters, which is great. I mean, when you play me with Descent, I have so many monsters to pick from. But what about if you weren't able to get that first edition of Descent? You have to go hunt that down just to get the models? This is the Fantasy Flight's way of answering this problem. Is this set is the first, and I assume they're going to release all the monsters at some point, which brings in some of the coolest monsters. But they're different sculpts, these monsters. So I find that interesting. I don't know if the stats are much different. I have to sit down and compare them. But they're different sculpts, and there's more quests and stuff. So you know, for those of us who have everything, we're still going to have to get this and get some more good Descent stuff. Let's see. Blue Panther's releasing a game called Rasputin, which is pretty interesting because it's a game where you're all trying to assassinate Rasputin, but you're not working together. It's not a cooperative game. Columbia Games has announced Victory in Europe, which is, they call it a short version of World War II, 4 to 6 hours. But I'm sure it's a fantastic game because Columbia Games puts out good stuff. Michael Schock told me, he's a designer who's made many great games, Coloretto, Zularetto, that he's coming out with a game called Han at the Nuremberg Fair this year, which is an anniversary edition of the game China, with new rules and new maps and such. It was a very popular game, China, which was based on another game he did called Web of Power. Many people really like these games. He said it's his 25th year of designing, so congratulations to him. That's the news. Again, I'm going to combine upcoming and release games because, again, this time of year there's not a whole lot coming out. Games that came out last week at Cool Stuff. Just some war games from GMT. We have The Supreme Commander, another game about World War II. Commands and Colors Napoleonic, the Austrian Army. And No Retreat, the North American Front Deluxe Edition. So some more games came out. Now, I said Sales of Glory might have come out last week, it was supposed to, but it's actually coming out this week. In fact, it should come out today. And I know a lot of people are looking forward to that. And also some games from Level 99. That's the 7-card Slugfest game they've done, Disc Duelers, and Pixel Tactics, the first one and the second one. I've done reviews on all 4 of those games. I think all 4 of those are great, and I have all 4 in my collection here. So anyhow, let's go up to Canada.
Let's face it. If you ask most people if they want to play a Dexterity game, and they say, huh? What? Now, if you ask them if they want to play Jenga, now they know what you're talking about. But the world of Dexterity games has way more to offer than just Jenga. Dexterity games are any game that require hand-eye coordination, a steady hand, a light touch, or lightning-fast reflexes in any combination. Now, some games simply rely on the physical, but others incorporate a strategic element that give them more replayability than your average stack some wooden blocks games. Oh, yeah, that one was good. Crokinole is a classic Canadian invention that dates back to the 19th century. Players flick their wooden stones in an effort to get into the best scoring zones while knocking their opponent's stones out of scoring position. Might as well be called table curling. Riffraff is kind of like Jenga on a rocking ship. with odd-shaped pieces that you're trying to get rid of rather than stack one on top of the other. So, actually, it's not Jenga at all. Players simultaneously choose and reveal number cards that govern where on the ship they get to put their cargo. Anything that falls off the ship as it tilts and rolls goes back onto your dock, and you have to get rid of it later. But if you're fast enough to catch the fallen cargo, it is removed from the game. Animal upon Animal is like Riff Raff with wooden animals and no boat. Each player gets a set of animals that they're trying to get rid of by stacking them on the back of the crocodile. But be careful, if you knock off any animals, they are yours. Rampage is the new game from Antoine Bauza and Ludovic Maublanc. Rampage puts players in the shoes of giant monsters trying to destroy Meeple City and eat as many people as possible. It combines elements of Crokinole and Plinko and throws in a strategic element as well. Let's not forget Jenga Boom. It combines classic Jenga with perfection as you play on a ticking time bomb.
For a question of the week, Jeremy asked me how I store my HeroScape stuff. Now, I spend more time with HeroScape, more room on HeroScape than anything else. And I found these containers here at the container store. And I have these black containers, they stack pretty well. And each of these containers has a different type of piece in them. So you can see in this one, these are all the single pieces, from single roads to single tree piece, grass pieces. Over here I have, inside here are all the walls and all the different things. As you go down under each of these, as you look at the different ones, for example here, we have the big hexagon pieces. And I'm not going to pull off these, and you can see I need to be playing HeroScape. It's a little dusty here. I need to get this cleaned up so I can play this. But in the bottom ones, all the way on the bottom, I have bigger ones. They have the big giant hexes in them. And then on these shelves, I have all these. These are basically these snap containers, and each of these has different things. For example, you can see this one has trees in it, and this one here has all the swamp hexes in it. So I have a lot of different ones of those. And then right here, I have two boxes. I also got these at the Container Store. Container Store is great, where I keep all the different people that are in my game in these. So that's not it. One more thing. You've seen these white shelves behind me, and you can see that each of these white shelves, I keep all the different people. Now, you have to realize that I have people in here that are not part of the actual game. I have some custom stuff. So while maybe the Dirac Amber Shard is part of the game, Darth Vader, Daredevil, and Cyclops are not in the game. But I try to fit as many as I could. I put them all in alphabetical order. If I add more, I'll have to deal with that then. And they mostly fit inside here very easily into the case, and I can pull these out. This is another great thing from the Container Store. I love these shelves. The bigger ones, I try to slide in here. Like here we have Death Walkers, 7,000, 8,000, and 9,000. The Death Stalkers there. And then the really big pieces, I just place on the top because they're pretty easy to find. And then I keep other stuff down in these drawers. You can see here I have the HeroScape dice. Here I have the HeroScape different tokens. There's custom dice for each of the factions that I have in a drawer. Like there you can see this is for one of the factions. And so anything I need. Now this makes traveling with HeroScape kind of a bear, but I probably won't travel with it very often and just play it here at home.
This week on Inside Out, we're going to take a look at
Cyclades.
Hi, my name is Sean, and I think the Boxer
Cyclades
does a very good job at showing the miniatures and components within the game, but something's missing, and that's actually the board itself. The board has a very big aesthetic impact on how
Cyclades
looks on the table. Produced by Matagot and Asmodee Games. Set up for a 4-player game. As you can tell, the board makes a big difference in the impact that it has on the table. Here we have the sideboard. Gods are randomly placed out on the board. Nice thick cardboard stock. The upper section on the board contains the player order section where the monster deck goes. Monsters drawn out available each round. and the discard pile for the monsters. And this game is full of nice little touches that go beyond average board game production. Good example of that are the player boards. Here you have the black player, the red player. These are not just different in color, they are all different images. The back of these contain lots of iconography. The cities and metropolis, made of good, thick, double-sided tiles. And here we have another one of those nice little overproduction touches. The individual player colors have their own sculpts. Here we have the marble columns and the player's colors. Next we have some of the best components in the game, the mythical creatures themselves. So these are rather large and very detailed. The Minotaur, Medusa, the Centaur, the Giant, and don't forget to release the Kraken. Kind of looks like if Homer Simpson was a Kraken. The game also comes with these tokens representing the miniatures for the mythical creatures, the money coins, some of the extra cornucopias, marbleized 6-sided die, territory ownership markers, and here are the cards for those mythical creatures. A quick example of the artwork on these creature cards. Designed by Bruno Cathala and Ludovic Mablanc. Art and illustration by Miguel Coimbra.
I've been walking through my collection talking about games that I keep, and I take a look at each shelf and tell you why I keep the games in that shelf. Well, this shelf has some HeroScape on, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But here I have 3 simply fun games, and room, I guess, to actually put another one. I feel like there's probably one that's missing and should go there, but there's 3 games. Simply Fun was kind of like Avon for board games. You'd have someone come to your house, throw a party, everyone buy games. But these are games that really work well. Walk the Dogs is a very simple game. It's kind of kiddish, but it works well with adults too. Potbelly is a great game where you stick coins in pigs, and the pigs actually explode if they get too full. And Crazy Mixed Up Zoo is a kind of a memory game, but it's unique. Basically, you have all these animal shapes, and one person turns or switches two of the animals, everyone else closes their eyes, and then they open their eyes and people have to guess which animal switched. This is a great game for especially very young kids. I've had great success with this one. Short shelf. There you go.
Have you ever played a game of Carcassonne when this dreaded question is asked? Now, how does the farmer score again? Carcassonne is one of the standards of board gaming. And it's important to know this question to create a smooth play session, especially for that first-time, short attention span player. So the Cranial Crunch today is for you to accurately score the farmers at this end game scenario. As a refresher, farmers score at the end of the game only, and this covers 3rd edition rules of the base game, of course. Here it goes. Remember FF, MM, and CC. FF equals find farms. Farms are continuous stretches of field tiles. Roads, city walls, and the edge of the playing area make up the boundary. MM is meeple majority. Whichever player has the most meeples on a farm scores. In case of a tie, both players score. And then CC, complete cities. Complete cities that border a farm score 3 points each. So in our case, farm number 1 is pretty big and has a tie for meeple majority, so both players will score. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cities. Farm 2 is a bit smaller and it only is scoring for black. It has 3 complete cities for 9 points. And then farm 3 goes to red for meeple majority and has 1 complete city, so it scores 3 points. So make yourself the expert with the FF, MM, and CC. Find farms, meeple majority, and complete cities.
Hi there, Russell here, and I wanted to give you my first impressions of the game Nations by Asmodee and the folks that produced the board game Eclipse, which I enjoyed very much, so I was very excited about trying this game the other night. So, positive impressions of the game. It is not long by a Civilization game standards. We played it in about 3 hours, and that seems about right. It's also very easy to learn for experienced gamers. It's got a very clear game flow, and you'll pick it up right away. My less favorable impressions of it are that thematically it's a historical hodgepodge. You can have all kinds of different elements from all over history sitting on your player board at the same time. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Also, the components for this game, it's almost a $70 game. The components are nothing to write home about. They're okay, but they're just nothing special. The technology in this game is kind of random. It comes out in different decks at different times, but it goes on to a progress board, and players are going to pick it up in player order, which is actually a problem I have with this game, because if you get to the back of player order, a lot of the technologies you're going to need to keep up in the game are going to be gone by the time you have your choice of cards. So I didn't enjoy that at all, and it's a very punishing game. If you make the wrong moves in the very beginning of the game, you're going to find that there's no way to catch up in this game. The technologies go quickly, you're going to get behind in player order, and they come out randomly, so you can't necessarily catch up once you're behind. That's something that can make the last hour, maybe hour and a half of this game, even though it's not a long game, very unpleasant, because you're going to be sitting there knowing that you're not going to win and there's nothing that you can really do about it. So my overall impressions of Nations are fairly negative, but if you love Civ games, you might want to give it a try. If you don't like games that can be kind of punishing and hard to catch up once you've gotten behind, this might not be for you.
From the Dice Tower this week, remember you can go to Dice Tower Network and find out all about our podcasts, all the different shows that come out there. There's a lot of great shows. For example, on the Dice Tower this week, tomorrow we'll be releasing a podcast where we talk about the best games from 5 years ago, 2009. Take a look back at the great games from there. You'll see some good reviews this week. Dan King's going to be doing his top 10 games of 2014. You'll also see the top 5 war games from Bart and crew. Here we have some of the games that I might review. I feel pretty confident I'll be reviewing Attack the Darkness this week and Downtown. Very interesting game. I might review some of the Flashpoint expansions, and Archon is going to make it this week, as well as probably Metallum. I don't know which other games here will make it. Again, Relic Expedition probably is a good chance. This Discworld game I'm not actually reviewing, but that, because my last Will game got destroyed, the box got destroyed, I have to store it in this Discworld box for now. So the last Will expansion, you'll probably see some of this week. I'll try to get out as many reviews, and I might even review an older game if I get a shot.
The Ivory Dice Tower, where I talk about games and academia. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about conferences and gaming conferences, because as I do these sessions, I will point you to calls for participation and talk about conferences that I've been to. Right now there is a call for participation for a conference. It's one of my favorite ones each year, the Games Learning Society Conference, and it's in Madison, Wisconsin. It'll be in the summer. The call is now through the end of January. And so if you might be thinking, well, why should I go to a conference? Well, if you've ever used games in some way to try and make a difference in some environment, and you have some way that you noticed that happen, perhaps you measured it, perhaps you looked at test scores, you did something like that. If you're an educator, if you've used games in the workplace, something to talk about, you might want to consider applying for this conference to put in as a speaker. Now, this conference has a lot of different ways that you can apply. Most conferences just have 3 different paths in. One is a poster session, and posters are going to be like a science fair for grown-ups, where people talk about their work. They present it on a large poster, and then they stand in front of that poster for a few hours and talk to people about what they've done. They're the best way to start going to a conference, I think. There are presentations where you'll speak for 10 to 15 minutes on a topic and submit a 4 to 7 page paper. There are panels where you'll be grouped together with other people, all focusing on the same issue. So I could see a panel on practitioners who've been using games to make a difference. That might fit quite well. This conference has some other ideas. They have a working example where you take a challenge that you took on and a game that you used and sort of how you're going through that. And the goal of that is to get feedback. This has a well-played session, which really focuses on, they focus on specific video games. I think it'd be really interesting to have someone do a well-played session on a board game. So take a look if you want to take on that challenge. There's also micro-presentations. Now, these are interesting. These are 1 to 2 page papers, and the presentation runs for 6 minutes, 40 seconds. It's a Pecha Kucha, P-E-C-H-A, C-U-C-H-A format, Pecha Kucha format. And the idea is that you have 20 slides. Each one shows for 20 seconds. More conferences are using these presentations, and that can be another good way to get started. This one also has the Hall of Failure, and in the Hall of Failure presentations, you're presenting something that didn't work out. Now, you might say, well, I'm not an academic, and that's okay, because at these conferences, this conference is good for educators and people who are working in companies, and really anyone using games in some way to help people learn, to be transformative, make a difference. So if you've been doing that, think about putting in for this conference. I'm going to be there. I'm actually going to be running a workshop before the conference starts for librarians on how they might want to use games in their libraries. But that topic is going to be the subject of another entry in the Ivory Dice Tower. So, until then, I will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
Hey folks! Hooray! It's 2014 and we're almost halfway through the first month of it already, but we're still kind of getting geared up. And so I'm going to take out my crystal ball here and I'm going to make 10 predictions in the gaming world about 2014. Now these predictions are a combination of insider knowledge I might have, or total guessing, or hopefully an informed look. We'll come back maybe next year and see how well I did on these. Some of these are very broad, and so, of course, it's kind of like, well, duh, Vasel, and others are more specific, and we'll see. Who knows? Okay, so number 10. I think we're going to see some shifting of companies this year. We're going to see Plaid Hat, Level 99, and Greater Than Games. Those three companies especially, they've usually been considered to be smaller companies. I think we're going to see them become mid-weight companies, even becoming some major players in at least the smaller hobby gaming industry, while we're going to see companies like Yellow and Asmodee really step up next to Fantasy Flight and Mayfair Games at this point in time. Number 9, I think Marvel Dice Masters coming from WizKids is going to be a massive hit. A crossover hit too, bringing in people who like collectible card games with those who like things like Quarriors. Quarriors was already a pretty big hit. I think this will be a very big thing and a lot of people are going to play it, especially with the 99-cent pack buy. Number 8. I think we're going to see a big trend in the board gaming world growing in the video game arena. We're already seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of people from the PAX, where PAX is all about video games, but there's tons of board games being played there. We're seeing a lot of new video reviewers and about board games, and they're certainly catering to the younger crowd that's mostly been playing video games, and I think we're going to see a lot of that. Number 7, the Origins Award this year is going to get the least complaints it's got in 10 years, and I'm actually not going to say anything bad about it. Now, I hope this is true. But I'm making that prediction now, but maybe I'm wrong. Number 6, I predict, just like a couple years ago, we saw Netrunner come back from the dead and become this massive mega hit. I predict we'll see some old collectible card game come back from the dead and be a hit also. Number 5, let's see. I think that we're going to see every major convention grow this year. I think Origins is going to be bigger, Gen Con's going to be bigger, Board Game Geek Con, Essen. I think all the big conventions are going to grow bigger. I'm predicting that board game is going to get even bigger this year. Number 4, I think we're going to see Kickstarter level out this year. I think we're going to see, this is just me from personal experience, talking to a lot of people who are starting to get disillusioned with why are they kickstarting a game when the people can buy it in the store earlier and cheaper, and they get some cool promos, and other people don't like the fact that those promos are only available to Kickstarters. I'm not saying that Kickstarter is going into a dive or anything. I think it's going to level out. It's still going to attract new people. It's still going to attract folks. And I think the companies that have a proven track record will continue to do well. But people, I think this year is going to be really tough for startup companies. I also think that we're going to see another major scandal this year. It's unfortunate, but we're still waiting on some resolving of scandals from last year. So, on the same note as that, my number 3 is I think that this year is going to see an explosion of the mini game, which we see Coin Age was obviously the start of that. Not only that, though, I'm going to even go out on a limb here. I'm going to say that 2014 is going to see an explosion of these mini games, not just from them. We've seen Love Letter and other games. We're going to see explosion in 2014, and 2014 is going to be the peak of that. I think pretty soon in 2015 and 2016, people are going to go, yeah, it's really nice to play this game. I mean, I'm so tired of all these light little games. I want to play something deeper and meatier. You watch. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I think for a while, both these mini games and I think the pay what you want are going to be very popular in 2014. You're going to see a ton of them. And then I don't know. I think it's just going to be 2014. Number 2, I think we're going to see the first iOS board game, maybe not iOS, but Android, but probably iOS, that people actually talk about. You know, there's been games where they've tried to combine the iOS with the board game, where you have an iOS and physical components, and people have been trying this and trying this and trying this, and nothing has really taken off. So I'll say 2014 is the year where we're going to actually see it, and people are going to get really excited about it. And then my number one prediction for 2014 is I think that this will be the year that a mega hit is going to happen. Now, I'm only going by numbers on this one because this is the 10th anniversary this year of Ticket to Ride, which I think we can all agree was a mega hit. This is the 20th anniversary of Settlers of Catan, which, again, I think we can all agree was a mega hit. This is the 15th anniversary of Carcassonne, a mega hit. And 5 years ago, we have Dominion. So it's about time for another one. Now, take all these with a grain of salt. Disagree with me? Tell me in the comments what you think is going to happen in 2014. I obviously have no idea, but I do hope that the Dice Tower does well. In fact, you know what? I don't need to have an outro here. We'll just make this it. Guys, I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing what we can put out for you guys this week. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. Y'all have a good day.
To find out more about all of our podcasts, check out DiceTowerNetwork.com. To see a listing of our videos, head to DiceTower.com. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Cool Stuff Incorporated, where you can buy games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock.